Stream can hear everyone in Discord.
Yeah, let's we'll do a basic sound check and stuff. I want to check the levels on my end. I'm also doing a recording, although mine is audio only and it's a fallback. Yours is the primary.
Sure.
But I just, for something like this, just in case something happens, power outage, computer crash, something like that, and the file's corrupted, it's better to have a second copy where we can. I guess with Twitch though, it's doing a VOD. I'm just old school and paranoid.
I think that's a good thing to be sometimes.
But this is going to be a recurring theme. Okay, so yeah, let's see. Do we have the chat in Tommy's stream going? People are watching ads there. That's good. Yeah, we'll give everybody a minute to settle in. I do want to start as close to 11 a.m. as possible, because I want to demonstrate I appreciate everybody showing up. I know that this is a Saturday. You're taking time out of your weekend to be here. Now, we have gone out of our way to solicit feedback on basically everything we're going to talk about today for the last 3 months. And so even though not everybody can be here today in person or online, I do want them to feel like their contributions are here in spirit and in fact. I have spent a lot of time reading through all of the feedback channels. I made a point of not talking in them very much because I found that discourages feedback rather than encourages it. Other than hopping in with a few clarifications here and there if I felt like people were arguing over like a point of confusion, where I'm like, no, guys, that part's already sorted. Here's what we need the feedback on. Other than that sort of thing, I really tried to just hang back. But no, I was reading that stuff as it came in. I was rereading it throughout the last quarter. Tommy, your stream title.
I was so fast to go live, I just forgot to do that.
It's fine, Tommy. I do that all the time. We're on the same page. Okay, that's okay. Speaking of Hermit Fan UHCs, while we make sure that everybody's through their ads, quick reminder: tomorrow, our team is going to be playing in the Hermit Fan UHC against several other Hermits communities. Apparently, I think Zedaf is actually playing on his own team, which I didn't even know was an option. I'm going to be spectating and flying around and streaming our team. But yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So hope you all check us out. I think is it at noon Central tomorrow, Tommy?
That's an excellent question. Noon Central, I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have this on the agenda because this is filler. For the most part, we're going to be sticking to the agenda today. We just want to let everybody have a chance to... Yeah, okay, it is at noon. We just want to let everybody have a chance to get through the ads, make sure they're settled. Okay, so it's 11:05. That's 5 minutes after we're supposed to start. I'm going. How's that feel, Tommy?
I say go ahead.
What's the first item on the agenda?
The first item is one from you. It's something we wanted to review. It is your creative work in 2023, episodes, streams, songs, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so here's where we're at on all of this. Technically, the next item on the outline, there's a sub-item, less freelance work, more creative energy. That's part of this one. So if you want to add a quick indent there, it's right on the website, but not in the doc. My biggest freelance client... which was the one I was on retainer for 10 hours a month, which basically means I owe them 10 hours a month of work no matter what, at least, but possibly more. That contract, I would not have renewed it last year because I knew it was stressing me out, but the renewal happened during the middle of the Hermitcraft hiatus, and I wasn't sure how much longer the hiatus was going to get pushed, so I was like, you know what, I'd better renew this. It has wrapped up at the end of 2022, however. So even though I'm still going to have a few freelance clients here and there, I don't have anyone I'm truly beholden to. I don't have somebody who, I'm carrying around their laptop when I travel in case there's an emergency with their servers type of thing. And so this is a huge burden off me. It does mean a minimum of $1,500 a month less of revenue, possibly more, because of some months, I would do more than 10 hours of work for them. But it, on the whole, has been the absolute best for my sanity and my sleep schedule. I'm able to travel to England without having to worry about getting a working visa and carrying a work laptop in case there was an emergency for them. So I've got my first trip to England booked, which I'm super hype about. I'm going to get to meet my fiance's family. She's been over here for several month or to 3 month trips to meet my family, my friends, and become, kind of become a part of our community here in Nashville, like hanging out with the other parents when we take Corinne places. It's been fantastic for her, and fantastic for me to get to spend that time with her. But I want to be able to do the same to some degree. Obviously, it's going to be a few days in England. I'm not going to get quite the same experience as a few months in America, but that's the sort of thing that's much easier to do because of this contract ending. Because I'm sleeping better on the whole, I'm feeling more creatively energized. So when we talk about episodes, streams, and songs, I have not been this excited about editing in years. I've really, with TCG, a Beef's trading card game, I've gotten in there. I've been picking up new editing software and tools. I've been learning how to use them. I feel like a lot of those skills, the first time you try to get your head around them, it takes a lot of time. But then the goal is you learn how to do it. And then once you can do it, the tools are all designed to be done or to be used quickly, you know? So there's a steep learning curve, but once you're at the top, you're just like, oh, it takes me 25 seconds to add a lightning bolt effect now, or to put this text here, or to do that. So all the things I've been learning over the last few weeks are going to allow me to make episodes almost just as quickly with some really cool effects, especially when it comes to things like the trading card game and possibly experiences in Decked Out. I haven't figured out how that's gonna. I might play with some of the same toys there. So I'm feeling incredibly energized about the episodes. In terms of the streams, I've been using some of that excess energy to get the tech back where I want it. We've got the iPad writing system set back up. We've got the camera account set up so that when I'm working on the pixel art on the side of the pinball machine, you can see how it looks live in real time. I am feeling fantastic about that as well. In terms of the stream schedule, the Friday morning streams seem to be a hit. It's usually, I found the Friday morning streams are kind of a compromise between the normal nightly stream energy and the Saturday night reading stream energy. Because the Saturday night reading streams are super grindy, but there's some things that are kind of grindy but more thoughtful, like doing the pixel art on the pinball machine, where it's like, okay, I gotta really think about what I'm doing, so I can't be reading and being goofy, but I am like actively talking to the chat and stuff like that. It's just not like super high energy, let's fly all over the place. It's more, let's sit down and work and focus, right? And I feel like doing focused work streams like that when other people in the United States are starting their workday, and when people in England, people are like, "Hey, it's 3:30 for me here on a Friday. I'm getting out of the office at 5. Thank you for making the last hour and a half of my week. I appreciate the company." I feel like that's a good place to be in terms of maintaining forward momentum with my builds and things like that. So I am going to be continuing definitely with the Friday morning streams. I'm looking at doing some other morning streams as well. I got to be careful about how that cuts into my editing time because there's a balance there. But for example, this Tuesday morning, we're going to be trying something a little experimental. My magnificent sibling, the artist formerly known as Sean Hills, now going by Quinn Hills, will be joining me in studio for just kind of a it's just kind of a hangout stream with a guitar. We've done all sorts of stuff before where we had like, this is our Halloween special stream, and we're gonna play a bunch of songs and that sort of thing. Or we've had like, oh hey, this is our build contest and this is our musical guest, right? This is a little different. This is more, hey, let's just chill and talk, strum the guitar a little bit, work on some stuff in Minecraft. It's more of a just a let's pal around stream. And I'm going to be experimenting with formats and stuff like that for in studio guests and things. In the long term, I might be looking at, depending on how real estate is in Nashville, Commercial real estate in a lot of cases is cheaper than residential real estate right now because of the pandemic. So I might have to look at getting an offsite studio and moving into a smaller apartment when my kid starts middle school in order to be closer to where she goes to school. And so at the point where I'm looking at getting an offsite studio, figuring out what the needs are for having guests in that studio and stuff will help me make choices there. If we did do something like that, that would not mean the end of the nighttime streams. It might just mean, though, that the nighttime streams are less elaborate in terms of, like, we don't have all of the props and everything. I don't know. I'd have to figure that out. But, like, in the long term, I want to be able to stream on the road, so I should have a fully kitted out streaming laptop anyway. So it might be like, okay, I stream from my laptop at night after my daughter goes to sleep at the kitchen table with a green curtain hanging up behind me. You know, it's like these are the rough and tumble indie streamer streams, and then we have like the high production value all in streams during the day or when she's at school or whatever. I haven't figured out how that'll work. I'm hoping that we can get a large enough apartment or possibly rent a house that will accommodate me keeping the studio in-house. At the same time, though, if we want to start doing things like shipping merch and whatnot, if I'm bringing in outside employees, it's a lot easier to have an off-site location. So we're going to come back to that probably next quarter because we'll find out where she's going for middle school in like March. So when we have our next quarterly meeting in April, we'll address that more in depth. Kindalas writes, will Quinn be judging the Groundhog Day stream? It is in a time loop. I think Badger was going to judge the Groundhog Day stream. But we could possibly have more judges. I will talk to both of them about it. Centauratron says that the Friday morning working streams feel more like the Wednesday morning art streams. They're more chill and focused on creation, but still interactive. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for there. So let's see. We had episodes, streams, songs. Okay, the music is in process. I'm having more energy to work on that stuff, but it takes time. I don't have anything really to announce about the music right now, other than we are still working on Volume 3. We don't know what we're going to call it necessarily. We might reintroduce the previous 2 volumes as part of a 3-disc set called, Quinn Hills Sings Joe Hills. We've got some branding stuff to sort out there. And the most important thing for me on that is making sure that Quinn feels comfortable. We've talked at length about using the artist formerly known as Sean Hills as a bridge to help the existing audience find the Redacted Hills Twitch channel, and that feels like it has been really well received so far, but we don't necessarily want to lean on that forever. So figuring out what to do about the first 2 albums, re-releasing them. We're also talking about doing a album kind of like William Shatner's Has Been album, where William Shatner did the spoken word part, and then Ben Folds and other artists did the arrangement and backing vocals and stuff like that. And having a Joe Hill Speaks spoken word album, that is arguably an incredibly self-indulgent, expensive project, though. I will be honest, a big part of the motivation for that is just wanting to make sure that Quinn has the financial security to get through the next year or 2. But I don't know if I have the income to be that generous. That's one of those things where, especially like I said, I'm taking a $1,500 a month hit by losing this freelance contract. Granted, I didn't lose it. I didn't want it. But you see what I mean? Like, I really feel like in the long term, my creative work is going to make more money because I'm feeling more creative and I'm feeling better. But in the short term, there's stuff that, like, I can start working on, but I don't know when it's going to be released because I'm going to have to pay for it to be created. Mahi's 0 says Hills sings Hills. That's not a bad suggestion. That's not a bad suggestion, Mahis. Okay, so that's where we are in songs. This is technically other creative work. It's not explicitly listed in the agenda, but it's still under the umbrella of creative work. The tabletop role-playing games. We did a ton of fun Pathfinder games in the second half of last year, running one shots, or I was running one shots for Patreon patrons. Those were a huge success. We had some scheduling hiccups. When we actually got to play the games, they went great. We had a few times though where it turned out like everybody backed out last minute, and that kind of sucked. And so we're gonna have to relook at how we do the signups for those. But the core concept, running one-shot games for y'all, is strong. I have a lot of fun doing it, and I want to do more of it. There's this idea I've been kicking around called Call of Cthulhu. The biggest thing holding me up on moving forward on that was I was going to need to spend like $100 on Call of Cthulhu source books. That ended up not being quite that much, but that was just like when I was looking at their website, I was like, oh boy, this stuff is not cheap. So I actually was able to purchase those last week finally. And I've started looking through all of that. I feel like I've got a really good, fun concept that if I described it to y'all would be like, well, of course that's the best way to do it. But that means I want to save that for the experience of running the first game. Mahi says, did they go on sale because of all the OGL shenanigans? They did through certain vendors. I ended up buying them directly from the creators anyway, because some of the books that I wanted weren't going to be on sale. So, for example, they have an entire guidebook on just cults, and because the Call of Cthulhu concept I had involved different cults, I wanted to read 20 or 30 examples of how they set up cults. Yeah. Kindalas says, I feel like my tip toward that specific issue was used well. I appreciated that you sent that, but part of the problem is when I say like, hey, I can't afford this right now, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm $100 short. It might mean I'm $1,000 short. And part of me is like, okay, I'm going to buy that as soon as I can, but I need to make sure that I've covered all my other expenses first. And so part of this was that I had to make sure that I was covered on my quarterly taxes. I had to make sure that I was covered on my airfare to England, because if I didn't go during this window when my daughter's on spring break, that was going to push the trip several months, and I might not have the opportunity. It's really important to me to get to meet my fiance's family, and it's important to her as well. And so it's one of those things like I appreciate it when people tip towards stuff like that, because it does help me feel. It definitely motivates me to spend that money as soon as I can, but unfortunately, sometimes as soon as I can is not that day. And I appreciate you being patient. Kindalas writes, was also aware that there is zero guarantee that any tip will go to any specific thing. That's my best Canadian accent. That's pretty bad. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the creative work before we move on to the next item?
Will you work more on your Canadian accent?
I should, clearly. That's a great question, Tommy. Thank you. Oh, boy. Okay, I see Mahi's is typing, so we'll see if there's a question there, and then if not, Tommy, be prepared to tell us what the next agenda item is.
Sure.
After we deal with that. As I spill coffee all over myself, I'm doing. I brought like a box of tissues in here. Where is it? No, I didn't. I got one tissue from the other room, and then, especially if you have to talk as beef. Okay, I'm gonna mute and deafen real quick and grab
Okay.
that.
We will now open the floor to other Canadian accents. If you are Canadian, the floor is not open to you.
Are you serious about that, eh?
Okay, I'm still deafened. Okay, I was gonna say, Tommy, I think we are ready to move on. I don't see any serious questions in here.
Perfect. You missed all of the Canadian accents we had going on. There were so many of them.
Oh, well, I'll have to go back and catch that on the VOD.
There was
What's up?
only one.
What's up next?
So the next item, we already reviewed your less freelance work, more creative energy. So we were going to review the Patreon tiers and Patreon community goals.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that. So we set a 3,000 goal at our last meeting, which we are now hitting. However, part of that is that one person who wants to remain anonymous is currently tipping at the $500 a month level, and said up front that that's not a long-term thing. That maybe a month or two. So we're currently maxing out all of our community goals, but I realistically expect that that won't be the case next month, right? So the $3,000 a month equipment and studio upgrades help me properly upgrade computer, camera, audio equipment for better quality streams and recordings. Like I said, I'm already buying upgrades for editing software. I mentioned that earlier. I just replaced my headphones, and I'm looking at. I got my portable traveling headset repaired. I bought the Call of Cthulhu books, which are an investment there. So I'm making some short term or immediate investments into the stream like that. In the long term, I want to pick up a 4 HDMI input card for my computer. I'm looking at purchasing one of the M2 Max to make my editing run quicker, and also as a fallback recording machine. So we have plenty of like capital expenses. Um, let's see. Kindalas says the Patreon at a glance looks like it's been abandoned. To help fix this, I recommend adding a post every time the newsletter is released, linking the newsletter. I feel like every week is too much, but I feel like quarterly, like basically me writing up a report after this meeting and then next quarter a report after that meeting, that feels about right. And I say this because the Patreons that I'm a part of, I get so many emails about, and I can't figure out how to turn them off without turning off important emails from Patreon, and it just makes me tired. And so I don't want to make other people tired. I want to give them creative energy, and so like, but I get like 5 or 6 emails a day from Patreon about random projects that I support, and then but then one really important email from Patreon about the community and y'all supporting me, and I need that email, and it's a mess. If Patreon fixes their email settings to be easier to use, then sure. But the way I see it is a lot of the folks who support me will say, "Hey, I'm not very tech savvy. You're like the first person I'm supporting on Patreon." And if I can't figure out how to get these email settings to work, I don't want to expect them to. So, like, this is kind of one of those sane default things. But yeah, I feel like a quarterly update. I posted an update when we hit 10 years on Hermitcraft last June. So that's 6 months now. I probably would have done one after the last quarterly meeting, but we had that big road trip and I was just buried. But yeah. Also, yeah. So like I feel like coming in talking about stuff I'm going to make that a goal for sometime in the next 2 weeks because, Tommy, realistically, we're not going to have the minutes of this meeting written up by Monday for this Monday's newsletter.
Ye
And I'm
of
going to
little
want to.
faith in me.
Do you actually have time to get those done? Because we normally say here's the VOD on Monday. Well, I guess a lot of times the quarterly meeting has been on Sunday, and so it was like a 24-hour turnaround instead of 48. But since we're doing this Saturday,
I'm
if you
taking
think
notes as we go, so I can take tomorrow to actually tidy them up.
okay,
So
well so that's still a 2-day process. It's not insane that we've waited a week in the past because doing it Sunday to Monday was tough. But in general, what we've done is we've had the VOD go out, the first newsletter, and then the minutes the second. But if we can get it all done by Monday, that's great. My point is, I'm going to want to refer to those minutes while I write that update. So we'll shoot for a week after the minutes are ready. I'll write up my quarter in review post. So yeah. Okay. Let's so yeah, I don't know. One thing I wanted to talk about is like if we hit a certain monetary goal. This is a request for feedback about requests for feedback. This is not a serious proposal for today because this is too late to spring on people. But I wanted to throw this out there as a possibility for something we add next quarterly meeting. Should we create a request for feedback about this, or is this such a stupid idea that, Joe, we shouldn't entertain it? And that idea is if we hit a certain amount, like 4,000 a month or 5,000 a month, I don't know what that amount is because I haven't done the numbers. Do we make some of the servers open to everyone? The flagship server would stay at $10 a month, but the Vanillish and the modded server and Everstorm and anything else is open to anybody at the $5 a month level. Is that worth creating a feedback room around? Because here's the thing: is when season 10 launches a year from now, we're gonna have a huge surge in active players. But what about the year between now and then? None of our servers are really running at capacity day to day. And I've gotten messages from people who are like, hey, is it cool if I sponsor somebody who can only afford $5 a month to be at $10 a month? And I don't want to have an individual sponsorship program for a couple reasons. One, it's going to encourage people to who don't have $10 a month to either pester or suck up to the people that have more money, and that in a weird way. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just in general, I want everybody to have access to everything. The only reason we haven't done that with the Minecraft servers in the past was capacity. I didn't have the capacity to be the showrunner or the creative lead on enough servers here. And now that we've got Yurgi and Toxic helping out, especially, that just seems good. Kindalas says having separate tiers for server access will lead to separate classes of supporters. Yeah, that's the thing, is I kind of want everybody here to be an equal as much as possible. To some degree, though, I feel like the flagship server, in order to deal, unless the hardware gets significantly better in 1 year for single player or for single core performance, when season 10 launches in a year, that server, if we open it up to everybody, will not be able to meet capacity. But if we've got a few spin-off servers, like we've got Vanillish, we've got Everstorm, we've got Modded, and they're all running, maybe we bring on one or two more along similar lines, letting other people on the staff also become creative leads on servers, that sort of thing, as it makes sense.
I think this is an idea with a lot of merit, and I think this is something we should open feedback for, just so we can get more community input, because there's not a large attendance at this meeting here, so I would appreciate having just more feedback in general on this. I think this is something worth trying to achieve. I would love to be able to see more people getting to participate in the Minecraft scope. And I just think it's a good idea, and we should discuss it more, see what we can make.
I haven't seen a single person say, Joe, don't open up feedback on this. This is such a terrible idea, which is good. The last time I suggested this was before we had Toxic and Yurgi on board, and people were like, Joe, you're already overwhelmed. Don't even ask. So this is very encouraging that we're moving forward. So yeah, we'll actually discuss this in the future, but I'm feeling fantastic about that. Okay. Vacation mode moving forward. Okay, so vacation mode was a huge success when I went on my trip. There were some questions for people like, Joe, doesn't doing this show that you don't trust your mods? And one thing, and that's the first thing I want to address, because I 100% do believe in the talent and compassion of my staff. One of the scenarios that I want to prepare for, though, is let's say that the company's doing well, and I'm like, okay, I'm flying the entire staff to PAX because we're gonna man a booth and we're going to, hang out, and it's gonna be a great weekend, that sort of thing, right? Well, or let's say that the company's doing even better, and I'm like, we're gonna do a staff retreat and we're gonna go somewhere cool for a week and unplug. Well, in those scenarios, everybody that I trust to run the server is not going to be available. And that's one of those best case scenarios. But you don't want to only prepare for failure. You want to prepare for success too. And so one of the things we were testing for there was, what if everyone is unavailable at some point? How can we restrict this? Or what if everybody is heavily reduced in availability? And I think that we got some good data about that. And realistically, though, most of the time when I'm unavailable, the entire group will not be unavailable. And so, as a result, in most cases, like, for example, at Christmas, not everybody on the staff was going to be busy at the same time as I was busy over the break. So we didn't do a vacation mode there. Going into something like my trip to England, I am not going to have access to the Discord. I'm not going to have access to... I'm not bringing my phone. I'm not going to have any of my two-factor tokens. I'm not going to... Basically, I won't be able to access anything. And I think we can probably let everybody here just do their jobs, and that should be fine. If that goes poorly, though, if we find out that that's a bad idea, when we get to, at some point, I'm hoping to go away on a honeymoon. That's another thing we're testing for, is I want to go away on my honeymoon, and I don't want to have the Discord app or a computer with me. I want to be able to unplug and just enjoy being with my new spouse on that honeymoon. And so we're going to try this over spring break when I go to England without the vacation mode, and we'll see how it goes. I don't want to... when I'm in the UK, will the server operators be able to do emergency maintenance on your server consoles? No. No, they're not gonna... Because here's the problem, is I can't afford to send people hardware at this point, and I'm not gonna give somebody root access to my server on their own computer. If they're accessing these servers, if they have a 100% access to the Discord as like a full owner admin, or if they have access to root on the servers, I need to be sending them a laptop, and I'm not there yet. I don't I don't have I just don't have the IT structure in place to do that. But same thing if I was letting anybody access customer data. Like, if we're shipping people stuff, your data is only going to be on computers that I have personally tested and vetted. And that's just one of those things. Like, because it doesn't matter how much I trust Tommy, I have a responsibility to y'all to make sure that Tommy has the tools to do the job securely. And if I can't provide Tommy those tools, I need to maintain that myself. And so that's kind of where we are on that. So we'll see how it goes over spring break. And so if spring break ends up being a nightmare in ways that we can fix easily, we'll fix them easily and whatever, we'll try it again on the honeymoon. If spring break is a nightmare in ways that can't be fixed easily, Discord might go read only when I get married for a week. That might just that's just a that might just be the way it is. I don't know. But vacation mode is not going to be something for every trip I take. It's going to be something for extreme cases of unavailability. For example, a honeymoon. Or for cases where the entire staff is all going to be preoccupied. Like, everybody's going to PAX. And I don't want our PAX... If I'm paying for everybody to go to PAX, in terms of flights and hotels and things like that, I just don't want to have some fight on the Discord distract us the whole weekend. You know? Like, I'd rather shut the Discord down for that weekend. And, you know, especially in that case, you know, I would be encouraging folks like, hey, you know, hopefully some of y'all can even get to PAX too and come see us there. So that would be a separate thing. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at on vacation mode. It was a very valuable experiment. We probably won't ever use it. We probably won't ever run it for a full month again. That was just because my October was singularly bonkers with my travel schedule. Yeah, use sparingly is the end result there. Okay, so I don't think we have any decisions we need to make about that anytime soon, other than, like I said, the England trip and the honeymoon. Tommy, am I missing anything on that?
No, I don't believe so. I do want to ask something that it's going to pertain back to the last agenda item of the Patreon community goals. If one of the concerns about vacation mode is server operators having access to consoles and such like that, is it possible to eventually have a Patreon community goal of upgrading the resources and tools available for, you know, staff?
That would be part of why it would be more expensive for us to have. So when I say, like, if we hit $4,000 or $5,000, I don't know the exact number, we open up the Minecraft servers to everybody at $5 and above. Part of that would go into staff tooling and equipment. That would be like making sure that you know, we've got Yurgi and Toxic staff laptops and that they're maintained and all that. So that is part of this moving forward. Is I want to get there. I just don't think we're not going to be there in time for spring break.
Right.
And we might not be there in time for the honeymoon.
Right.
But in the long term, yes, like, I'm not just saying if you give me more money, then I'll be more kind and generous to y'all. It's I need to be able to cover this with more people. I need to be able to pay their hourly staff rates, and I need to make sure they have the tech they need. So yeah, no, Tommy, you're exactly right. That is all connected.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I think I'm not seeing any major questions about that so far. I think we're ready to move on to Minecraft servers. Is that the next item, Tommy?
Yes.
Okay. So, long-term server reset schedule. We worded it that way for one very crucial reason. Long-term server reset schedule, long-term server reset schedule, long-term server reset schedule. Gonna reset servers, but not often. Okay, so...
It was worth it.
It was. 3 months in the making, that joke. 3 months. Hermitcraft just had a meeting about Season 9. Because when we planned Season 8 to be a short season, the concession was we're going to do one extra short season because we had to route around Minecraft's map world height changes and stuff like that. With the new when Minecraft pushed their update, we were like, okay, we gotta cut the next season short. So let's do a short season and then a long season. And once we hit the end of the year on Season 9, the conversation was, are we still committed to doing that long season? That seemed like a good plan at the time. Is it still a good plan? And the resounding answer is yes. So Season 9 will probably be longer than Season 6finity by the end. Unless something wild changes and we cut it a few months shorter, like just because of timing and stuff. Because one of the things that we talked about is we don't want to... we want to make sure that we have a really strong energy for October, November, and December. And so if this season's still going strong then, we're going to push through to January, maybe take a month off, launch the next season in February. If we get to September and we're like, no, we need to pull the trigger now, okay, we pull the trigger now. That's less likely. Possible, but less likely. Either way, though, there is no Season 10 launch this spring or this summer. 100% sure. And I'm 75% sure it won't be till next January. So we are not going to be relaunching the flagship server or the vanillish server anytime soon. The modded server, we're going to key, and we've already publicly talked about this, and I think we're going to stick with it. We're going to key the modded server to major Minecraft releases and never upgrade it. So we'll ultimately have some overlap where we're running a 119 modded server and a 120 modded server at the same time for like a month or two. And then maybe it's just the 120 modded server. Or maybe we spin up both, depending on where server resources are. Maybe we keep the 119 as long as people are playing on it. We got to see kind of what our server community sizes and things like that, make choices as we go. But realistically, we're not going to be launching a new server at the beginning of this, or we're not going to be ending any of our servers at the beginning of the summer this year. So that's going to be a huge change from last year. I was thinking it might be worth spinning up other concept servers, but we don't necessarily have anything in mind yet. Darth Worthen says, if I was able to hire more people in the future, would I think of opening a create mod server? Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly the sort of thing that I was going to say, like, we have a little while until June, but I would like to launch some sort of side series or modded server at some point mid-year, but we don't really know what that looks like yet. So I was going to suggest opening a feedback, honestly, maybe we wait until March on this and we just see what's hot then. If we're going to be launching it in June. I don't know. Mahi says, I wouldn't expect 120 to start up for a few weeks after the 120 launch. Yeah, exactly, because there's not going to be mods for 120 right away. We're going to have to see what comes out. But anyway, this is just something that I wanted to give y'all a heads up. I am thinking about, and it's early days. So if y'all see any crazy mods that you're having a lot of fun with your friends, make a note of them, and we'll be soliciting feedback for that probably starting in March with an intent to launch in May or June. But yeah, that's outside of the next quarter, so it's not urgent for us to sort that. Brandon Necropolis wanted to talk about maintenance schedules. And somebody else earlier was like, Joe, can you please make sure that the server is doesn't have a full hard drive before you go on your next trip. Yes, that is one of the things. Now that I have more energy, I'm trying to get better about. Ironically, one of the reasons that I frequently just couldn't get into a motivational state to work on server maintenance was because I was wiped out from doing server maintenance the night before for my freelance clients. And now that I don't have that, that's much easier to just jump on. So what I need to do, or what I'm preparing, is like a pre-flight checklist for when I'm going to travel or be unavailable, making sure that everything is all set before I go. And one of those items would be doing server maintenance. One of these servers I need to do an operating system update on as well, and I probably just need to schedule a weekend or something for that when my daughter is away. Although the problem is, well, I'd be dependent on the data center to actually set up the install of the new operating system, and they probably don't want to do that on a weekend. I've got so one of our servers, the operating system, is moving out of support, and so I need to update that. But so so it might be that we have server 1 in particular go down for a day or two at some point in the future, and I want to get that done before summer break because I know that's when people, especially college folks, have more time to play. Okay. Dwarf Fortress says I'm still whitelisted on this. Wait, what are you still whitelisted on? I don't think you're supposed to be whitelisted on the Minecraft servers if you were removed from the Discord. We'll look into that. Thank you for letting me know, because that was definitely an oversight. Okay. Sorry, what were you saying, Tommy?
Server maintenance stream.
Yeah, I don't really want to do those for operational security reasons. But yeah, I would prefer not to. Oh, you still pay for the Patreon. Oh, well, no, yeah, you're welcome to pay for the Patreon. I'm just saying, like, yeah, if you were removed from the Discord, your Minecraft whitelist should have been revoked as well. So, but yeah, you are also welcome to stop paying if you would like. I appreciate the support either way, but yeah. Yeah, Yurgi and Toxic aren't here right now, so, and I'm not going to deal with that at the moment. Server maintenance streets would look like the printer scene in Office Space. They would look a lot like the streams I used to do where I was in Adobe InDesign laying out a book, screaming at Adobe InDesign. Like, why? Why is this not working? This should be working. This is unacceptable.
It's Adobe.
Yeah, that is the answer. Okay, so yeah, so I do need to schedule a day at some point for a full operating system upgrade for server 1. Server 2, I upgraded. We had a crash a while back that was pretty crazy, and so I just ran the upgrade then because I was like, well, we're down anyway. So, Ad-Astra says I'd vote to bring the holler in streams back. Yeah, they're a lot more fun for you than for me. Okay, so let's see though. Moving on. I think we're done with that, Tommy. What have we got next?
So now we're shifting from the Minecraft servers just to more as the Discord in general. The first category we have under Discord as a whole would be the image and embed functionality.
Okay, so Aviva definitely mentioned wanting to share images in gaming general and Minecraft. And I got a lot of feedback about this. Almost nobody likes me removing images from stuff. So what we're looking at, my proposal is actually the next item. Text-only channels or categories, like alt general text only. Part of my problem is I well, there's like two distinct problems. One thing that we were running into was people were posting a lot of like big GIFs that you have to scroll past, and they weren't alt texting them, which is bad for accessibility. But also, it's hard for me to process sometimes. Like after I've eaten, like when I'm digesting, I have problems focusing and stuff like that, and I can't parse sometimes what the intent of a meme is, and so because I like to hang out here when I'm digesting and can't do other work safely, at least like that used to be when I would do a lot of my best programming work though, because I get into an incredibly literal state. My brain can process literal stuff, but like trying to make leaps of implications of things like visual images, it just, I don't know, it just short circuits for some reason. So um yeah, like part of the problem is people were not using alt text. Part of the problem is I couldn't personally understand what was going on half the time, and then that made me frustrated and wanted to hang out here less. um and then another problem, well, was that the spam channels are supposed to be for user created images, and other people were posting like reaction images, which then, like, if somebody makes a really cool painting and you have to scroll past 8 reaction images, you can't see the painting anymore without doing a bunch of scrolling. And so we've got like a bunch of stuff there. I wanted to experiment with turning off images in most places to see if it made a lot of these things get better. But what we got to was everybody hated it. It was too restrictive. We just need to turn it back on. And so Lakshmi13 says, I love images, but still don't think we need it in general. Okay, well, so we have a few options. It seems to me, though, like the best of them is creating a text-only channel or category. So having a text-only general, because we've also gotten requests for years to add a second general channel. So having a second general channel that's text-only, I can hang out there when I'm digesting and can't understand why there's a policeman clapping. And then, like, I also, like, I don't know. Like, people keep using all of these GIFs of policemen, and, like, there's a lot of stuff lately with cops shooting people, and it makes me really uncomfortable. Like, I don't know. It feels like this weird propaganda thing. Like, just on some gut level, I'm like, I feel like we need less GIFs of policemen. And but we're not here today to fix that, because cops are gonna shoot who cops are gonna shoot, I guess. But it's still like it takes me out of like being excited about someone's cool painting. Like, I'm like, I want a distraction from this article about cops shooting people. Let me go look at cool paintings people made. Oh, here's a cop clapping. Like, why? We don't, like, why? It just it stresses me out. And a lot of people are saying feels is another one that maybe images aren't a good choice for. So yeah, I don't know, but like, core concept. Does anybody have a major problem with creating? Well, if we created a text only channels thing, if we created that as a category, and we had alt general text only, would we just move feels into that text only category? Because feels isn't really in a specific category as it is.
I think there's a large benefit to having a category that specifies what channels are text only, because sometimes you'll go in a channel to share something to realize there's no image embeds turned on and you can't send the image you wanted to send. So by having that clear distinction, I think it'll be easier folks to know, like, oh, hey, I can send stuff here versus, oh, I don't want to be seeing stuff right now, so let me just stay in the text only category.
Okay. So yeah, because so let's when I'm looking at this, the only other things that feel like they blatantly should stay text only is things like that clearly belong somewhere else. Like in gaming, we have a Nintendo Switch code, you know, a thing that doesn't need to be moved out of gaming into the text only category. But yeah. Is there anything else that y'all think would best deserve to be in a text only category?
I would say introductions, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good, because one of the big things is where like one of the problems we have in the spam things is that like somebody made worked like for 8 hours on a painting and that should be the spotlight and having other images distracts from it. So yeah, introductions being text only would kind of make sense. Yeah. Okay. So what do we call the text only uh category is then the next question.
Where do we want it in the
Yeah, I
alphabet?
think we want it toward the top. So, because T puts it after all the SMPs, which are at the bottom for a reason. Uh, it could be ASCII, ASCII, ASCII only.
No.
Don't you dare use any Unicode in here. We're also gonna ban emojis
No.
and emotes. Uh, all text. I like all text. Only text.
Actually, no images.
UTF-8 general. Yeah, yeah, I think all text is a good. So we're gonna go ahead and create a category here called all text. And I'm gonna have to move that up. Now it's gonna take me more time to actually turn images back on than we have in the meeting here. But I'm gonna move fields into all text. Okay. And permissions, I'm going to verify that embed, yeah, attach files. Oh, that was one of the other problems we ran into, is there's no way to distinguish between somebody adding photos and adding zip files. Because, like, I don't want people uploading mod packs, because the mod authors are really particular about people repackaging their work. Or other random executable. We shouldn't be hosting executable code on this server, really. And there's no way to forbid zip files but allow images. One thing I will warn y'all about is one of the other things we were testing here was kind of the community sentiment about image hosting. Realistically, if Discord got bought out and shut down and we had to respin this up on my own web server, there's no way I'm allowing file uploads of images or anything like that. You'd have to use offsite hosting for any images. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to allow image embeds at that point. But people were pretty clear that image embeds are going to have to be allowed whether they're hosted offsite or not. So I feel like we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about what that backup plan looks like. Because it looks like also Discord was bought partially by Tencent already, and Tencent's under a lot of scrutiny with the federal government. It's just one of those things. Like, I'm really happy with the Discord as it is now, but that is part of why I have to have a fallback plan for if Discord itself becomes a problem later. Okay, so Does anybody have an objection to me creating the alt general text only? Okay. Looks like we're good there. Okay. So, let's see. Looking at the agenda, Tommy, what have we got next?
So, continuing in the category of Discord, one of the things we have here is channel calls and reintroductions.
Channel calls and reintroductions. Yeah, hey, we're adding a new channel. Okay, so the channel calls in general. I think it was a good move to get rid of a bunch of channels at once. However, Meep definitely raised concerns. One of the big problems with consolidating all of the video games into games is that for somebody who's using a screen reader, they can mute conversations in channels that they don't care about. So let's say that Meep really likes Pokemon but doesn't like other games. Meep can mute all the channels but Pokemon and then listen to the Pokemon channel with the screen reader. But it's harder to scroll through. And so we're going to keep that in mind moving forward. We're going to keep that in mind moving forward. Amanda says, what's the likelihood of needing a fallback plan like that? I would say on a long enough timeline, it approaches 100%. But there's no way... I don't believe that there's any way that we're still using Discord in 50 years. Now, we've only been using it for 8 right now, and so 50 is maybe a stretch. I figure there's probably a 75% chance we're still using it in another 8. But an 8 after that, it drops down to maybe 25%. Right? But still, things that like a 1 in 4 chance that Discord gets bought by Facebook or bought by Apple and shut down or reformatted or restructured. Even Discord itself could make a policy change that like basically says, if Discord made a policy change that said you cannot require people pay to be part of your Discord community unless you do it through Discord's payment system. If they get in a fight with Patreon because they feel like they're big enough that they want to replace Patreon, they could just create a policy where we're basically banned tomorrow, right? So I have to have that plan ready to go and implement. Maybe not like, it wouldn't be the next day, but it would, if Discord got shut down, I would have a new forum system up and running on one of my web servers within a week, with invites sent to all the Patreon patrons individually saying, please generate a new account over here because this is where we are now. Not everybody could spin something like that up in a week, but I've done a lot of this stuff before as part of my old day job and this stuff I've done for other people. And so, yeah, when your whole livelihood is dependent on the whims of tech platforms, as Mardigan puts it, I can't not have a fallback plan. Now, the thing is, a fallback plan that includes allowing people to upload files and images is way more complicated from a legal standpoint because of DMCA takedowns and stuff, and from a text standpoint in terms of storage than having a text-only solution. And so that's one of those. I'm not going to be able to replace Discord 100%. The replacement wouldn't have its own voice chat. Probably we'd probably spin up a separate TeamSpeak server or something like that. But in terms of the core functionality of this, a place that people can type and have conversations, we could get a PHP web forum up. Kindalas says, I feel like a fallback plan would out of necessity be a minimum viable product. Exactly. So that was part of what this text only test on a lot of these channels helped us establish is what is the minimum. Right? What are people okay with? So yeah, people would end up using things like Imager or their own servers to host the images. Exactly. So, let's see. So that's kind of talking about the channel calls. Next time we do a channel call, we're definitely going to look at things like removing Pokemon when a big Pokemon game was about to come out. Even though the Pokemon channel wasn't being used very often, that was a bad choice. That was something where in the future I'm going to need to be more forward looking on some of this stuff in order to avoid that sort of thing. So that was a lesson learned there. Okay. So, frequency of channel calling. I feel like channel calls aren't something we should do every quarter. I feel like that's a once a year, maybe every other year thing, even. And it seems like people are generally in agreement on that with the feedback I saw. I feel like that's a decision we don't have to make right now. Kindalas says, would and could channel ads be done quarterly? Yes. Channel additions would be done quarterly. But like for big server-wide channel calls, I feel like that's one of those things where at a certain point I say, hey, 3 months from now we're going to do a channel call. And that'll probably be a year or two from now, maybe even 3 years. But the idea is every few years with 3 months notice, we do some sort of call and we just clean a bunch of stuff out. I think that's the way to do it. But the channel additions quarterly, I think, is the way to do it, because otherwise we end up with a bunch of random stuff added that is just all over the place. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and start getting into... Tommy already introduced the topic. I guess adding channels back to Discord?
Yes.
Okay. So, add spam things you wrote. This is one. If I pull up the actual feedback, more channels, we can look at the emote responses here. We had 25 people check the ballot box saying absolutely rubber stamp this. 2 people asking questions and 2 people saying there may be a better home for this elsewhere. Are any of the people who are here today people with questions about it? Let's see. Who actually clicked on that? Oh, actually, only one of those was... looks like Centauratron was the one who had a question. Centauratron, are you still here? What was your question about that, if you're still here? Or did you delegate that to somebody else to ask? It looks like no one was delegated that, so...
They're typing in meetings discussion.
Oh, awesome. Excellent. I genuinely don't remember what the question was. Okay, so... Seems like this one's a winner. I feel like with Twitter going down especially, maybe it's not completely turned off yet or whatever, but I think there's going to be a rise of people creating individual blogs and doing more long-form writing, and I feel like being ready to amplify and promote that will be good for our community. So I'm going to create a new channel here. Spam things you wrote. Okay, create channel. RST. And done. Okay. Moving on here. Feedback, more channels. Channel Pokemon. We got 20 people who said to rubber stamp this. No questions, and no one says there needs to be there's a better home for this elsewhere. That's obvious. Like I said, I think removing the Pokemon channel was the single biggest failure on my part of the channel call. I did not anticipate the demand, and as a result, I made things less readable for other people. So I'm gonna own that. That's the sort of mistake I'm gonna learn from, and we're gonna move on. Feedback, more channels here. Dwarf Fortress. my suggestion here was because I won't shut up about how Dwarf Fortress is the game that convinced me to try Minecraft, and I'm accumulating a dozen screenshots a week. I don't know where to post them. This is a game that you really can't learn on your own very easily. Also, so it's a good game for people to talk about as they play it. We got 8 rubber stamps, 5 people with questions, and 4 people who said maybe this belongs somewhere else. What are the questions? I would love to know what the questions are, if any of those people are here today.
NJ's in a chat somewhere. She's one of the people with questions.
Yeah, it looks like
She's
the
typing.
questions here were Fally, Rix, NJ, Alpin, and Dahlia. So did any of them delegate those questions to somebody who's present?
Nobody has mentioned a proxy. NJ does not remember.
NJ's typing in the wrong channel. Okay. So here's one. This is an example of why we don't add channels every week, because then we end up with a bunch of stuff that needs to get culled. When I suggested this, I knew that this was one that was I was not sure. I knew this was the one that was most likely to be rejected, honestly, and one that wouldn't hurt my feelings if it was, because maybe I should just be posting my Dwarf Fortress stuff on Twitter and not here anyway. Maybe this really isn't the best place for it. I should be posting it on the subreddit for Dwarf Fortress. Not everything I care about needs a channel on this Discord, especially if it doesn't really overlap with any of my other work directly. So I'm going to go ahead and say this one doesn't meet the cut, unless other people have any feedback. Mardigan says, I favor fewer channels in general because of fragmentation. I do too, in theory, but once again, coming back to the screen reader and accessibility thing, if 25% of the games channel ends up being about a particular game, people with screen readers need the ability to mute it if they don't want it, but they still want to talk about games in general, right? So, a lot of people here are saying, like, yeah, Dwarf Fortress isn't really even coming up in the gaming general channel, so it doesn't really belong as its own channel. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you guys there. We're going to choose not to add the Dwarf Fortress channel at this time.
Grace Winder has a suggestion that I like. Whatever Joe is playing channel.
That is going to put a lot of pressure on me, and I don't want it.
Really?
I can't stand that kind of attention.
To have a space to talk about whatever you're interested in the week?
No, because then I'll feel compelled to be interested in something every week. Sometimes I don't have time to play other games because I'm doing editing or I'm practicing music, or you see what I'm saying? Like it would create an obligation for me that I don't want. So yeah, we're not going to do that. What's the next one? Yeah, I can just use the gaming channel when I have something to say. Exactly. Okay, so the next one, it looks like, is the space channel. I feel like this is a really strong one because I'm going to be doing a ton of space research as I'm working on concepts for my pinball machine anyway. I've been dumping a lot of this into either work in progress or current events if there's cool space news. Realistically, this is going to heavily overlap the entire next half of my season on Hermitcraft, and it's going to overlap cool stuff coming out of space telescopes. Like, I kind of think that this one is a no-brainer, and we had 19 people agree with me. We did have questions from 3 people, Salem, Fally, and one other, Dahlia. But did any of those folks proxy the questions to somebody else here?
No proxies were given that I know.
Queen Asteri says, I would love a space channel. Kindalas says, space channel gives space nerds a place to data dump. Lakshmi13 says, just from the launch excitement, I think this would be a good addition. Ad-Astra says, I would die for it. See, so unlike the Dwarf Fortress thing, where this is just like my current obsession that I don't even have time for, Like when I suggested that Dwarf Fortress thing, I was playing Dwarf Fortress for a few hours a day, and now I haven't played it for like 2 or 3 weeks, probably more because I can't keep track of weeks because oh my gosh, I have so much to do all the time. But yeah, so Amanda also likes space. Mahi says, "Please don't die for the space channel. We'd rather have your space pictures." Uh, so all specific. It would go under small victories. Okay, kind of like current events. Yeah, is in the all specific except for general. Yeah, at a certain point, it might make sense to create a category called like IRL, and we put like current events, space. What are the other categories? Food goes under consume. Spam work you can mission, TTRPG, tech. Yeah, you know what? I think for right now, we'll just put it in all specific except for general. So here we go. Create channel space. Okay. Corky says Dwarf Fortress is one of those time machine games. It's rare to find time to put in a solid session. Yeah, that's one of the things is like if I start playing Dwarf Fortress for an hour after my stream, I won't go to sleep. And so I can't let myself play it at night. But then I'm like I can't take it as a quick break. Like with pinball, I can play a few games of Total Nuclear Annihilation on the real table or a few games of one of the virtual tables for our pinball tournaments, which I gotta say, I am loving the pinball tournaments, y'all. I am so glad that Sammy brought that back when I was too tired to get it running again. Her getting that momentum back into the system was huge, and I'm really appreciative of that. Okay, so let's see, meetings, discussion. So let's see, space. We got in there food. Let's see, what was the feedback in terms of the emotes on there? We had this was a suggestion from Tommy. 27 check marks, no questions, no it belongs elsewhere. That seems like a slam dunk. Now Kindalas had suggested food and recipes as an alternative title. I The only problem I have with that is then we can't move it. Then it feels like does it belong in create or consume? M says food channel, best channel. Yeah. Food is a creation process. Yeah. See, that's the thing. Is okay. Yeah. See. Like I'm clicking on spam photos, and there's like a GIF of somebody with reflections in their eyes, and I can't tell. Like I mentally. I'm like, wait, did Queen Asteri modify this photo so it's like reflecting the fire in MJ's thing? Like I'm always every time there's something there's an image in the spam channels, I'm always trying to figure out what the person did to make it. And I'm like, I know that's from a Pixar thing, but how is it modified? Sorry, I'm getting derailed here. But that's uh yeah, because I'm clicking through different categories to see where to put the food channel, and I'm getting derailed. Queen of Star, should I not be reusing reaction gifs? Yeah, and so the spam channels are only for things that you made yourself. So like if you made that GIF, so like you're posting that in a place for images that people created, right? And so I'm assuming when I see it, I'm like, it's like a puzzle. I'm like, oh, how did Queen Asteri make this? Right? But it's not something you created. And so then the problem is people have to scroll up further to find the images that they did create or other people. Yeah, it's kind of it's a weird thing because I can't ban images in the channels where people post their images. Um yeah. Okay. Thank you, Queen Asteri, for being understanding. It's just the sort of thing that it really I get caught up and then yeah. So would alcohol go in food? Great question, Em. Probably. You know, like maybe we call it food and drink. Yeah, I feel like.
But also because not every time someone's posting food or drink, it's something that they've made themselves. So I don't think it's necessarily warranted to go into the create category.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make it. Let's just make the executive decision here, and we can revisit this in 3 months if I'm wrong. We're gonna put food and drink in the consume channel. And you can put recipes in there. You can put other stuff in there too if it's food related. I'm not gonna say it's not for food you made, but like if later on we need a separate channel for spam recipes you invented, where people are posting pictures of, hey, I took my grandma's recipe and I modified it and here's how it turned out, we can do that. We can do that, but we'll do that in 3 months. We're not doing that today.
Or we could do like a cookbook channel.
Yeah.
That'd be cute.
Maybe. I honestly, yeah. We'll see what the demand is in 3 months or in the future. Not today. Let's keep moving. Spam work you commissioned. So we got in this weird thing where a lot of people have been hiring artists to do work that they want to show off, but they're not sure where to put it. Does it, because the spam channels are supposed to be for stuff where you made. So like the question is, do we have a spam work you commission channel? Do we tell people just post it in general as the catch-all? Let's see, what's the emoji response to this?
I don't think that one actually ended up in more channels.
Oh, you never actually submitted it?
Yeah, that's my bad.
Oh. Well, then we didn't get a chance to get feedback on that. We can postpone that then, since it didn't get properly vetted. Do people have strong feelings about kicking that off for 3 months? Or Tommy, it's your thing. Do you want it considered today strongly?
I feel like we can just see how people feel about it now, and if it's strongly like, oh my god, yes, we should definitely have this, then yeah. And then if people are like, actually, I'm not sure, I don't mind waiting. I personally can't think of a downside for having a channel like that, because there are a lot of people in this community who commission work from other artists and they want to be able to share that, and maybe they don't feel like they have a good space to share.
I 100% agree with your logic on this. The only concern I had was that because you didn't post it for public review, I don't want people to feel like you got special treatment and that I'm pushing your idea through. So let's at least get some feedback from the other people here right now. M says everyone should be able to share the work they commissioned from Tommy. Amanda says, when should we start posting feedback for next quarter? Anytime you want after this meeting. Centauratron says, I do have a channel suggestion for the next meeting. Well, Centauratron, at this point, if we're going to consider Tommy's idea without getting public feedback, what's your idea? Maybe this will help me feel better about taking Tommy's thing and just running with it if we just accept an idea from you off the cuff. Or maybe I'll see why I absolutely can't do either. I don't know. We're kind of off script here, and
I think that's okay.
No, it's okay. But I really don't want people to stress out that if they miss one of these meetings, a million choices are going to be made without a channel for people to share their community or their commission info. Yeah, that's definitely the sort of thing we would want feedback on in advance. Like if we created my concern with that, and I would want to get feedback on this from the community because I don't know how valid my concerns are here, is if somebody says, hey, I paid for this and I didn't get it, or it didn't come out the way I wanted it, I want you to ban them from the community. I don't want to deal with that drama. I don't want to arbitrate people buying and selling things here. Like, we already get mod mail from people who are like, I can't stand that this person keeps disrespecting me. And I'm like, they're not technically breaking any rules. You need to talk to them about that. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's doing something where I need to eject them, I'll eject them. But like, it's weird. It gets in a weird space, where, like, think to use like a bar analogy. If I'm the bartender and you have a fight with your friend about a sports team, and you're like, I can't believe that guy was such a jerk to me about this. I can't. It's not my job to throw them out of the bar for disagreeing with you in a disrespectful way. Now, if that guy is like picking fights with random people in the wrong jersey, like, yeah, they're getting thrown out, right? If somebody is coming into the bar and is like a con man, I'm gonna throw them out. But if like this guy is a roofer and he comes in all the time and you need a new roof and you come in all the time and then you get in an argument about you hiring him to work on your roof and him showing up for work late, I'm not going to arbitrate that as the bartender, right? So that's one of those things where, like, I kind of prefer if people do freelance work on their own, if people are available for commissions, I don't mind them mentioning when they post, like, hey, I did this image in like spam art you made. Hey, here's a painting I did. If anybody needs any paintings done, reach out to me. Like, I feel like me allowing folks to say that is different from me creating a space where I'm like, this is like a classified section where this is a classified section where I'm encouraging people to go out of their way to post their commission info. You know what I mean? It's a different level of responsibility for me. Vin and Mahi's, Vin says, do people frequently ask you to ban people? Mahi says, now I'm self-conscious that I somehow offended someone and they've had someone message mod mail to have me banned. No, that's the thing. They don't message mod mail to ask people to be banned. They say, can you make this person be more respectful? This person is being rude. Can you ask them not to be rude? And the answer is no. If you feel like somebody is being rude to you, it's your job to ask them not to be rude to you. Now, if somebody messages, if somebody, and I want to say too, like, this is one of those things where if I get a bunch of messages saying, hey, this person is acting like a jerk, and that there's like a different pattern thing here where there's a difference between an interpersonal dispute and this person is walking around the bar punching everybody in a Steelers jersey, right? Like, this guy is having a fight with his friend versus this guy is picking fights with everybody. Nobody here is walking around picking fights with everybody. Nobody here is anywhere near being banned for any of this. But I'm just saying, this creates more opportunities for me to be asked to arbitrate disputes, and I am unprepared to do that at this time. I'm not going to prevent anybody here from letting people know that they're accepting commissions, but they need to be doing it. They should be letting people know that in the context of, hey, I created something cool in the spam channel. Reach out to me if you want something. M says, as a former bartender, any loud argument that messes with the whole place's vibe means both people get the boot. That's the other thing, M, is like, if these two people can't sort it out and it starts spilling over, it doesn't matter who's wrong or right. They're both not welcome at that point. Like, I'm not going to arbitrate that. I'm going to eject them. Things don't reach that point here almost ever, though. So, back to Tommy's channel.
If it's not a channel that's in scope to be added, and I would rather not have to wait for the next quarterly meeting. I feel
you know what? I'm going to say it is in scope I truly considered Centauratron's suggestion. We gave Centauratron's suggestion time, even though we didn't add it. So we're going to give yours time, whether or not we add it. It seems like nobody has a problem with Tommy's spam work you commissioned channel. Kindalas seems interested in particular in making sure that there's a place for it, even if it's not Tommy's specific idea. I say we do it. So let's go in here and we're going to say spam work you commissioned. Also, because this is alphabetically the last thing in here, it's not, I feel like it's not competing with the other people who are making stuff themselves.
I feel like Kindalas was saying with credit. I don't think that needs to be in the channel name, just in the
I'm
channel
going to put in
description.
the channel description.
Yeah. And then the mods can know as a whole, hey, if somebody posts work without the proper credit given, take it down and say, please credit the artist. I agree with the Queen of Stary in terms of saying that we can put this up for review at the next quarterly meeting just to see.
Yeah, and if this is one of those things that gets abused, like we'll deal with it as it goes.
Right.
Like, because this is definitely going in there as an experimental channel.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to put in there
that it is
in the channel description. Experimental channel may be modified or removed if abused. Like, in general, if we add something, it's going to stick around until the next quarter at least.
Right.
But if I feel like we're going out on a limb, kind of the compromise is I'm going to warn y'all, like, hey, this might blow up. If we end up with 8,000 posts from one person and it looks, if it's not working somehow, we're going to talk about it. Like, we're going to talk about it and we're going to fix it. Okay. So TTRPG was suggested by Wes. This I am let me pull up the emotes here. 17 rubber stamps. No questions. Only one person says maybe this belongs somewhere else. Especially because this was another thing where, unlike Pokemon, where we knew there was going to be a new Pokemon game, we didn't know there was going to be a massive open gaming license blow up. He says, wait, Joe, did you make a new food and Pokemon channel? Why not just unarchive the old ones? I don't know, but I already did it. And now I don't want to do it again. I mean, if people... The thing is, the old archive channels are still technically readable, but people have already posted. And, not do it. We're moving on!
You don't have to unarchive food because now it's food and drink. There you go.
Moving on? Yeah. Moving on. Okay. Tabletop role-playing games. This is... We before we had two channels for this, we culled them both, rolled them into gaming. I think a broader channel that encapsulates both of them is going to be good. So I think tabletop role-playing gaming being in its own thing is going to make sense. I'm going to be running more Pathfinder games. I'm going to be running Call of Cthulhu games. We're going to have activity sign-up channels for those created on the fly once we get those, dates scheduled. But that's going to get people thinking and talking about these games in general. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. The open gaming license stuff, people are talking about it. It's a good time to get that out of current events and somewhere better. So that's going to go under the games category. TTRPG, tabletop role-playing games. Okay. So let's see what was next in more channels here. That was suggested by Wes, approved and created. Surfrock suggested a tech or programming channel, like technology. Like I said, I don't want this place to be a tech support room because that's stressful for me. I know a lot of the people who work in tech here get stressed out by having family and friends constantly asking them for tech help. And so I don't want to have just a tech support channel, but having a place to discuss technology in general isn't necessarily bad. I don't know, did Surfrock suggest a specific category for that? Because I feel like that will kind of inform.
Well, one of the things that was suggested was part of it was also to help with tech support type things, because there are people who do need that kind of support here, and sometimes it is difficult to try to navigate Google to find those kinds of answers. Not everyone is opposed to it, but I can also understand not everybody wanting to help. But my answer to that is simply, if you don't want to play tech support, don't.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I guess in some ways, this kind of feels like the space channel and the current events channel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're talking about IRL stuff, but not necessarily. Yeah. So I feel like this goes in all specific except for general at this point. I don't know that there's a better place for it. Yeah, I feel like spam whatever you else could be a place for showing off your tech setup or things like that. So it doesn't have to. So it's not under create. Yeah, I think it's going to be all specific except for general. We'll just go with technology. So, like, if people wanted to discuss AI or Chat GPT, that would be a place to do it. Or whatever. Okay. So, technology has been created.
I think that was the last.
That's the last one that is on the agenda. I saw that another last-minute suggestion was add a second general channel. We have just added a second general channel as part of the text-only thing.
You did it.
Alt general text only. So I feel like we have already considered and done that. Our final item, I think we're ready to move on to. You know what, though? Let's be fair to everybody. Tommy, we considered one of your things last minute. We considered one of Centauratron's. Does anybody else have any last-minute channel suggestions? Just as we've been talking, sometimes I'm guilty of this. As I talk about stuff, things occur to me, and I'm like, maybe we need this. Is there any? Several people are typing. Okay. Ad-Astra suggests fashion. Well, let's not move on to the last item yet, Kindalas. I'll return to Kindalas's comment when we move on. We're still on the adding channels back to Discord. Ad-Astra says, can we bring back fashion? I mean, I feel like to some degree that could just go in spam photos you snapped. Was there something... Were people having, like, actual discussions about fashion? It seemed like it was mostly just people posting selfies. I mentioned moving introductions to text only and didn't move it. Oh, hey, thank you. That's a good note. Yeah, let's get that all sorted out. Edit channel, permissions... Okay. People are talking about hair dyes and stuff. Amanda says a research channel would be interesting.
Joe, all text is in alphabetical.
I thought I had... Okay, so I've dragged this so many times, it's like not updating. Okay, there it is. Ad-Astra says, I was having discussions about fashion. Research channel would be interesting, according to Amanda. A lot of people talk about their work in science. Okay. Okay. I said I would consider these today, and I'm considering them, and I kind of feel like both of these are cases that we would benefit from broader community feedback on, because Kindalas says we're veering into last minute channel bloat. Okay, well, here's the thing: is I feel like there's something to both of these suggestions. They just don't feel like they're refined. Like, these are good, but they just don't feel ready to me. Like, Tommy's thing was fully thought through and prepared, and even though, like, it was what I wasn't considering disqualifying it from consideration because because it wasn't ready. I was considering it because it wasn't submitted. These were both not submitted and feel like they would benefit from more feedback. So let's go ahead and put those on the docket for consideration for next quarter. They're good suggestions, but they're not. I would love to see more feedback from the community about both of them. Because yeah, like, it didn't even occur to me that hair dye is part of fashion. I don't have my head wrapped around it, and I feel like just getting a little bit more community feedback on what does or doesn't belong in there. It will be considered. And it will probably be approved. I just don't know what it looks like at the approval stage yet. Yeah, you guys post it in feedback more channels later today. Okay. So, let's move on. What is our next item, Tommy?
So the last item we have on the agenda is reviewing server emotes. That was brought up by Kindalas. One of the things suggested specifically by Laxmi13 was a thank you emote.
Just so you know, it's Lakshmi13.
Ooh, sorry, Lakshmi13.
So I like the thank you emote idea. That has been in my... I don't know what it looks like, though, in my head. And so I'd have to figure that out. Kindalas has a good suggestion here. As part of server emotes and last item, can we have a channel for emote feedback and requests? Primarily used to discuss and vote on new emotes. Also could review the current emotes for utility and accessibility. I'm not sure how much accessibility matters with emotes, in that as long as the names are visible, because like somebody using a screen reader would get the name of the emote. Like the name of the emote is its own alt text. Also, I don't think we can remove emotes without like breaking the archives of the server. So I don't want to consider anything that's going to break the archives of the server either, if that makes any sense. Mahi says it doesn't break anything to remove emotes. Would it not remove them from like where people had used them in the past? The image stays. Okay, see, this is one of those, like, I don't know enough about Discord things, I guess, then. I was assuming it was going to break stuff. If I removed an image that I uploaded, it should... But you're saying if I submit an emote to Discord, I can never revoke that emote? Archivally? That's actually kind of weird in a different way. Kindalas says, I think it's a longer discussion worth having over a longer period of time. Okay, so when we added this to the agenda, the intent of adding it to the agenda was that we would discuss some suggestions today. With one of them being the thank you emote as an example. So, Lakshmi13, if you're still here, what does a thank you emote look like to you? Like, what is that? Because like, you don't know. Okay,
I imagine
so
it'd be like the this TBH emote.
like it would be like THX or something,
Possibly.
or because like to
Or
me,
TY.
that's just gonna remind me of the baseball player Ty Cobb. I don't. That's I don't. I will never look at TY and read it as thank you. That's just not how my brain works.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, I know. I'm too old for this. Um, but like, yeah. So if I like cut out the letters THX with construction paper on one of my craft streams, Vin Shoken says Shay Shay. Yeah, Vin. Yeah, we're just gonna Shay Shay everybody. Sounds good. Never mind. I'm gonna cut out Shay Shay with construction paper.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's gonna take. It's like it's these are 3-hour streams. Okay, Vin Shoken, I'm stealing your joke. We're doing it. Shay Shay. Okay. So we figured out what that looks like. But yeah, like realistically, a lot of these I have no idea what they're gonna look like. Or like we just kind of added a bunch of random ones.
Like
Uh
Sandpiper.
yeah. We've got all sorts of like basically here's some pictures I took. I went through my camera roll one day and added a bunch of stuff. And I was like, we'll see what people think. Like,
Like frozen coffee.
yeah, that's frozen coffee.
Washed ashore.
Mm-hmm.
Big hits.
Yeah, these get used all the time.
Oh yeah.
But like that's the thing is like I mean, if people aren't using the ones I put up already, it's not very encouraging to add more.
Well, I think it's sooner, as the suggestion as a whole would be, review emotes that maybe are underutilized, and instead, what other emotes can we have that the community
we
would
can
like?
add like 200 or 300 emotes. There's literally no reason to remove any. Like, let me go into server settings here and emoji. Oh, sorry, we have 35 slots available. For static ones. Oh wait, we have 100 slots available for animated ones.
Woohoo! Now you can wiggle the she emote, make it dance.
Yeah.
I like Kindalas' suggestion to have a channel for it, because then if people think of emojis that they might want to have over time, then they could post something similar to the Feedback More channels, like a post saying, here's my suggestion and an example of what it would look like, or how to utilize it.
Here's the other thing, is a lot of people, one thing I'm seeing here is making me nervous. And in a way that makes me not want to have emojis at all. Like, a lot of people are like, any of these need to have a justification for why they're in here. Like, what is this supposed to mean? A lot of them aren't supposed to mean anything. They're just photos I liked. And I just went in and added a bunch of photos I liked one day because people complained I didn't have enough emotes. But, like, I don't want to explain why I liked photos. I was like, look, maybe there'll be emergent behavior here. I don't know. Like, I just, like, if stuff is just whimsical, having to go back and review my whimsy makes me not want to do whimsical things in the future.
You can say like, no intended purpose, just whimsical.
Yeah, but then that makes me feel like I should never do anything whimsical with these slots again. Like, I don't.
For every one logical, have 10 whimsical.
Yeah, like if I don't know, it feels wrong as an artist to like go in and tell people how to use these.
We're not meeting our whimsy quota.
Well, but like I understand that being a server administrator is to some degree separate from being an artist, but because this is like this is the server that you are paying the artist to be a part of. Like we get into like Joe Hill's difference territory where I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. Like I just, like it feels like an encroachment into, I don't know. It if it feels corporate instead of expression. It feels like I can't express myself artistically as freely in a weird corporate way, and I can't put my finger on it, but I don't like it. Graysender says having emotes be named for their intended meaning instead of what they look like would be nice. Well, but they don't have intended meaning. See, this is the like I feel like meaning is sometimes emergent, and this is one of the reasons I couldn't figure out how to do a thanks emote. I like is it I guess I don't I feel like there's already I guess the other thing is, isn't there like built into Discord like emotes that are supposed to demonstrate things like pleased, happy, sad? Like I don't want to I'm not trying to find like there's probably already one that means thank you. I just don't know what it is cuz I didn't grow up with this stuff. Like I feel like if I'm competing with the Unicode standard, I'm in the wrong business. I'm here to make stuff that isn't expressed otherwise. I don't know. This is a really good conversation because I'm way outside my comfort zone and I'm thinking critically about a lot of my assumptions about art. But this is not helping anybody get more emotes either. Lakshmi13 says, thanks is one I haven't really found expressed very well. Kindalas says, this is the kind of conversation I wanted to have in the emote feedback channel. I guess my concern is, Kindalas, is when we create that channel, how guided do we want the discussion to be? Like, in the feedback more channels, I tried to guide the discussion to make sure, like, hey, if you want this considered, make sure you structure it appropriately. So that way we can consider it appropriately. But, like, with this emote thing, I don't feel like I'm prepared to guarantee that something will be considered if I don't have... Like, there might be entire classes of emotes that will never be considered, but I don't know how to describe what the boundaries around those classes are, right? So I'm trying to feel that out now so that people don't put a bunch of time into writing something up that, like, belongs somewhere else.
How would you know what does and doesn't belong unless that discussion happens, though?
Well, that's what I'm trying to talk through now is, are there any boundaries we can even set before that discussion starts so that people don't go down a bunch of long roads and feel like, geez, I spent a day and a half making, these proposals, and Joe's just like, no, that's not what we do here. Because I feel like this is a big category where a lot of what people ask for might be just, no, that's not what we do here. And I don't know how to set those boundaries. So if we go into it saying, there's a good chance these won't get made, but you can throw around ideas, and like if something captures my imagination, like then we'll do it. But like I don't. No Pepe emotes is a good boundary. Yeah, okay, we're definitely not doing any racist dog whistles. Yeah, but like that's like what I mean is if somebody's like, I want an emote uh to say hello. Like there's already a waving hand emote and there's already probably some other stuff. But
Morning
like
evening emote.
what was that?
Morning evening.
That's Fally's thing. That's not my thing. That's the other thing is like stuff that's emergent from the community. I don't want to co-opt. That's not my I've never said that unless I was like parroting back something somebody else was saying. Like that's not me. That's y'all and I don't want to take that from y'all. You know, I don't want to co-opt that. Like this is what I'm saying. Like there's weird things where I'm like if something is more the community's than my own, I won't feel like it's my place to have an emo for it. Like that's
I think that's an interesting perspective that I hadn't really considered because in my eyes it had always been like this is something that's part of the community like culture so to speak, and I would sooner see it as a celebration of the community and what they do versus co-opting it.
I feel like that's the sort of thing that if one of y'all created your own spin-off server, y'all have that emote. Because that's an in-joke amongst y'all. For me to take that and put it under my branding as part of my Discord, that feels gross. I would not feel okay with that. And because it's yeah, like I just stuff like that. It gets weird. Um,
I've always viewed it the way Gracewinder's saying that it feels more hours than yours because it is your Discord and it is your branding, but personally I've never viewed like the emojis in Discords as like, oh, this is owned by whoever owns the Discord. It's more so, hey, this is the personality of the community in that Discord.
and you know maybe this is something I could come around on, but like I'm gonna be honest. Like when I'm looking at this is the sort of thing like in 3 years I might be like, you know what, Tommy, you were right about that, but I don't know how to get to that point tomorrow. I just like I don't know how to feel okay with it tomorrow.
I think that's fair.
And like and I feel I hate having um to put people in this situation where I'm just like I can't describe why something feels repugnant to me. It feels wrong. It feels and it, like because then they're just like, "Well, Joe, you're just running this place on a whim with your cult of personality and shit." And I'm like, "Well, to some degree as an artist, you have to go with your gut, and to some degree as a business owner, if somebody's suggesting something and you're like that doesn't feel like what we should be doing, maybe it's not, but like like I've honed my instincts from a lot of time spent on all this stuff. And like sometimes the instinct is like this feels wrong because it's always going to be wrong, and sometimes it feels wrong because it's not the right time for it. And I feel like this is more the latter than the former, but I don't know I can't describe what would have to change
I feel like
for
one of the
that.
difficulties, though, then, is that because you have it turned off where the only emotes that can be used here are emotes from this server. So, whereas in the past, people had been able to use emotes from other Discords that, were theirs and not co opted by anybody else, now they don't have the options to use that anymore. And there's valid reasoning why you turned that off.
Yeah, the Pepe stuff was
Exactly.
like almost 100% of that.
Right.
But like, and I I just can't litigate
Right.
that stuff day to day.
I just wish there was a compromise we could have had.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I guess here's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the feedback channel, and I'm gonna move forward with the Shay Shay thing on. Um, Now here's what we're gonna get in a fight against about next. Is are people gonna be mad if the name of the emote is Shay Shay? Or are they gonna be like, no, Joe, it has to be thanks? Because like that's the sort of thing where I'm like, I don't want to like I feel like if you don't know what it means, you shouldn't be using it. Like,
I mean, people have asked in the past, like, "Oh, what does this emote mean?" Regardless of it actually had meaning or not. I feel like it's fine to
yeah,
ask. And,
I mean, you can Google it and it'll be the first result. Like,
right.
so like, but like that's the thing is like once we get into like I feel like emotes are more art than administration, and once we get into art my brain starts getting really picky and nitpicky about stuff. And like that's one of the reasons that we didn't have emotes for a long time, was because I was like, if we start adding these, it's gonna be the Joe Hills show. This is going to be an extension of my artistic brain. And people were like, well, let's see how it turns out. And this is the first, and now 3 or 4 years later, we're coming back to it for the first time seriously. And a lot of people here weren't there for that first discussion, but I guess I kind of feel like the way I was approaching that then is the way I'm still approaching it now. And I don't see any sudden reason to change. You know what I mean? Um, and so, and this is one of those things too, where like when you talk about like the point when a company, like a small business goes corporate, like when did it lose its soul? Like this feels to me like one of those things like the Discord is still like an artistic expression to some degree. It's still an extension of what I'm doing creatively while I'm maintaining creative control on some of this stuff. If I just said, okay, you know what, Tommy, you're in charge of the emotes, I never want to think about them again, that would be a turning point for the Discord, right? And honestly, if I was able to afford to hire you full time to run the Discord, I don't want your hands to be bound. That would be one of the kind of rite of passages of this, is I
Right.
would be saying, Tommy, this is, this is mine, and I'm fully entrusting it to you. I am entrusting you with the authority to add and remove emotes. I'm entrusting you with the authority to add and remove channels. You're taking all of this day-to-day stuff off of my plate. That's what I'm paying you for, and I trust you to do it. But like, if I establish kind of a clear sense of vision and direction up until that point, I can feel more confident handing it off to Tommy, that Tommy will feel enabled to make his own decisions here and not necessarily just do whatever the community asks all the time because it's popular or whatever.
Right.
Right? Like I want to set a good example for you to make your own decisions in this when it's time for you to make those decisions, or when it's time for whoever takes on that role, right?
Right.
And so this is one of those things like I don't expect I'm going to be very flexible on, and I don't want to mislead people about that when I create the channel, is kind of where I'm at. So we're going to create the channel, but realistically, I don't want to get into fights with people about this stuff all the time on the Discord. So when we review it when we review it next quarter, there might be stuff that people talked about for 3 months where I'm like, we're just not going to do any of that. And
You can
that
have a big disclaimer at the
yeah,
start
it
of the
feels
channel.
terrible.
Pin it.
Like, Kindalas says, I think there's room for fun emotes and utility emotes, and they should have different expectations and criteria. The problem, the problem with utility stuff is once again we get back to like what's the minimum viable product for the replacement for the Discord. That probably doesn't have any of the emote functionality in it. And so the emotes being something that we can walk away from if we need to, or if we have to, I guess it's the same, is good to me. If we're trying to solve certain utility problems with emotes, that makes me worry that maybe we need to solve those utility problems other ways, or like, for example, using the calendar emotes for scheduling is kind of a stopgap. If we created if I set up a different forum software, I would just create like a basic polling functionality tied to people's user IDs, and we would do it that way. So like that's a case where there's a clear utility for those emotes, and I know exactly how I would build a replacement for it in PHP in an hour. But if there's something where you're like, this is a utility we need on the Discord, I also have to have like a mental fallback for figuring that out. And maybe we're using the word utility differently here.
I think so. Because it's not being used in like, this is a load-bearing emote and we need to have it kind of situation. It's more so we have the functions available to us. Since we are using Discord, emotes are a function, and we just want to make the best of that.
Yeah, so like the reason that they're great for scheduling is because each person can only click it each day once, right? You can't accidentally double vote.
Right.
Same thing for thumbs up on something. Like you can't get more thumbs ups than you have users.
Right.
But like that sort of basic polling technology we could just do. Kindalas says I refer to things like that, like this TBH or mood. Oh, but this TBH isn't you. Oh, see, I did that. That was art. Like, so I guess see this is like basically with when I created the this TBH, I just wanted to have my own chroma green version of people saying this TBH. Because like I really didn't like the font on the existing people were using that from like Fally server all the time. And I was like, there's a better you could do better with the typography there. That was a typography challenge for me. Same thing for mood. I was like, I feel like there's a typographic approach here. That was intended as a creative exercise. Okay.
We use the emotes to communicate in shorthand, basically. So when the community asks for emotes, like for thank you emote, I don't see it as a we absolutely need this to function. I see it more as we're looking for an easier way to communicate with each other.
Okay, I see Fally has already created a room for consideration next quarter. So if other people want stuff considered for next quarter, consider that open. Okay. Luxury13 says, I missed this TBH emote went on other servers. Well, you can always make your own. That's what I did. Okay. So where was I? Okay, so we're going to create the feedback channel. So the other thing is we need to remove any feedback channels that aren't going to be relevant moving forward. Like things that were for this meeting, but we don't need anymore. Actually, I think feedback vacation mode we should okay, feedback text only channels, since those are new, we're going to want to keep them for now. Feedback vacation mode, we might need when I travel in March, because we're not going to have vacation mode. What?
We can archive it for the time being.
Gosh. I don't want to archive it and unarchive it.
That's fair.
Okay, I was like, for some reason I walked into this thinking we would be like cutting half of these feedback channels at the end of this meeting, but like Everstorm, newsletter, creative, and accessibility are all still going to be viable. Structure, I don't I don't know if we need feedback structure anymore because I feel like that's kind of under more channels. Yeah, I think feedback structure is basically covered by other things at this point, so we can archive that one. Dang it. Any of the other ones like seem blatantly ready to remove? Creative and Everstorm we need. Newsletter we need. Moderation rules. More channels. The Saturday readings is about to be super relevant. Sponsorships is going to stay relevant. Text only channels are new. Feedback vacation mode will keep. Okay, so yeah, feedback emoji. Are they? I guess they're called emoji in Discord. Because like when you go to add them, it calls them.
They're labeled as
Let me
emoji.
check the settings. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's under emoji in the Discord. Server settings. Yeah, emoji. Okay. Kindalas says emote. Well, Discord's calling them emoji. So if people are like
emote on
Googling
like Twitch and stuff.
Yeah, emotes is for Twitch, and we're not considering adding emotes on Twitch right now. So okay, go into the channel topic. Push to talk is my caps lock button, so I've got to possibly hold shift the entire time I type if I'm talking out loud. Ideas for additional emoji on the Discord. Currently 35 slots remain. The emoji are likely to be added based on whimsy. Please do not get emotionally invested in your requests. I mean, like and let's see. Ad-Astra says needs picture posting access. Okay, yeah. Let me. Oh yeah, I do need to add the ability to attach files. So going through all of these and turning images back on is not a during this call thing. Okay. So, does anybody have anything else about that? About the review server emotes? Or emoji? It does not look like it. Okay, Tommy, I think we are at the end of the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, we're going to give... Okay, I see some people typing. We're going to give people a last-minute chance to chime in with anything they've got.
While they're typing, will we have the next quarterly meeting date ready to be announced on our next newsletter?
So I'm gonna say let me pull up my calendar real quick. So the awkward thing about that is Okay, so 3 months from now is April Fool's Day, and then Easter. We're probably going to be doing something for one of my parents' birthdays the first weekend in April. Second weekend in April is Easter Sunday. If we go back a week, that's Texas Pinball Festival. So realistically, it would probably end up being the third weekend in April. I think we'll say tentatively scheduled for the third weekend in April. Details to follow.
Sure.
Somebody says, can using mentions to attract the attention of Joe or staff for non-emergencies as ground for removal for the Discord be added to the rules? That's... I don't know if we want to talk about that right now. I feel like that's kind of... like... if we go to actual rules real quick. Okay. I'm gonna we don't have this as a formal agenda item. But do not directly at Joe or staff members for help to report. I'm not ready to write that right now. Is basically like there's a way. That's like something I need to discuss with the staff. Is how to word that. Maybe that's not something I think is for the group.
My first instinct is I don't mind being pinged, and I prefer to be pinged even if it is non-emergent.
Well, the big problem that we run into is we need people to use mod mail, so that way it goes to all the staff,
right?
And not just so like sometimes people might ping NJ about something that's not an NJ concern. It's a moderator.
It almost never is an NJ concern.
Almost no, like really, like never ping NJ. For it's not gonna help. But yeah, so basically that's something that I need to talk about the staff separately about at our next meeting, and we'll sort that out of band. That's not a discussion I think for the community, because we want to encourage y'all to reach out to us in the correct ways for the correct contexts, and so I think we need some sort of guide, like for issues about your Patreon account, always send Joe a message. For issues about that require moderation, always contact ModMail. We need to write that up in a... That's out of scope for this meeting.
Yes.
Y'all are on the right track. It's something we're going to address, but we're not going to address it today, especially because it's not on the agenda. Continuing the emoji thing, which is on the agenda, and we haven't formally closed out yet. Ed Butler writes, I'm sort of emoji blind and find some of them incomprehensible, but I still like to use some of them like thumbs up to express agreement. I guess we already have a couple of those, but it took me a while to figure that out because I kept looking for the missing generic thumbs up. Well, the thumbs up is in the Discord set. That's the other. That was kind of one of the things I was saying is like we don't need to create our own thumbs up because Discord provides that out of box, and so that's going to be something we consider. But yeah, I agree with you, Ed. Like having stuff that's all over the place is kind of, I don't know. It's hard for me to know like
everything.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. So, yeah, people are saying, if it's a rule, it'll be more obvious for people who don't know it yet. Well, that's part of why we need to make sure it's written the right way and in a helpful way and not in a punitive way. Because if we tell people, we'll ban you if you at me, then they're not going to ask for the help they need. Right? We need to figure out how to... That's a separate thing. Okay, so if I see people are still typing, if it's about emoji, we'll address it now. Otherwise, I think we're about ready to close the meeting because we've been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes already. Thank you again to Tommy for your help getting everything organized, making sure... Tommy and I have been discussing some of the feedback as it rolled in over the months. Tommy has been indispensable as a community liaison. increasing Tommy's involvement and responsibility here was one of the best decisions I feel like I've made for a long time. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tommy, for all your help leading up to this meeting, streaming this meeting, keeping everything on track. You are really appreciated.
This is single-handedly one of the most important aspects of my life, and I gladly continue to do this.
Okay, it's gonna take me a while to unpack that. Wait. What's the antecedent for this? Like, this meeting is one of the...
No, just my position in general, getting to help the community. This meeting in
I feel a lot better about that.
This is the best meeting of my life.
I have spent the last 3 months every morning 100 push-ups. I'm going out there running 5 miles, doing cardio. I gotta be ready, you know. Like, this meeting is all I've had to look at. This is why we need to get the next one scheduled right now. I need that.
I have nothing else going on for me. I eat, breathe, and sleep this quarterly meeting.
Yeah. You just have me worried. The problem is sometimes I'm a little bit too literal. Okay, so anyway, thank you so much, Tommy. Again, thank you everyone for coming out. We're already going to be accepting feedback and suggestions for next quarter in the next quarter new business room. The earlier you get them in, the more time we have for everybody to consider them, everybody to talk about them. Not everybody can make these meetings, and it really sucks to show up after the meeting and be like, what? I didn't have a chance to weigh in on that. So that's one of the ways we make sure everybody in the community has a chance to weigh in, is through those feedback rooms. So yeah, if you're passionate about something here, you want to see something change, you want to see something improved, we are reading it. We are definitely keeping it in mind. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much again, Tommy. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring.